Howdy guys. Today we're going to be doing an install of a FASS fuel filter system on a 2011 Chevy Duramax. I had the privilege of meeting the owner of FASS last weekend at a rally, and he was showing his product there. Brad's a great guy, easy to talk to, and well knowledgeable. He really knew his stuff. So I was impressed. FASS system is excellent, especially if you're doing mods to your trucks. I've got a stock Chevy Duramax, but because the Chevys don't have a lift system put in place, it is highly recommended to put one in place to save the life of your injectors. Now, I was a bit worried about putting this thing in place because I have not done actually haven't done much of any work on my truck. So we'll see how this goes, but I wanted to keep you up to date and do some videos on how this is done. So for the first part of the install, the system comes with a wiring harness that you've got to wire into your fuse box and into your battery to get power to it. So I was just going to show how that looked. It was pretty easy to install. You got a couple of cables, one going to positive, one going to negative on your battery. That runs back to this line here. You've got a fuse relay here. You want to keep under the hood of your truck so it doesn't get wet. Now another part of this comes off this cable right here that you see. This you have to find a hot fuse that turns on with the ignition in your fuse panel. What I did is I chose fuse 45. But again, mine is the 2011 Duramax. Yours could be different. This is a fuse that turns on with the ignition. It is the heater system, and then it turns off. So again, that's fuse 45. You might need to find something else. There's another fuse relay right here. We're going to keep inside the hood so it stays outside of the weather. And then you can see I just ran the wiring right around the back there. You might be able to see down there, but we ran it straight down following another wiring harness. Just went straight down to the ground there and attached it to a frame underneath. So you can see here I've got the end that's going to actually connect to the pump sitting on the ground. But it is just simply run up here following this other larger wiring harness, follows the frame, and then up underneath in there. Probably can't see that very well, but that's where I ran it up into the engine compartment. Real easy install. We use, once we get done, we're going to use some zip ties to secure it. Also wanted to show you what I've got prepped back here. We haven't put the fuel pump into the truck yet, but I've got it all prepped and ready to go. I like to do as much as possible beforehand, before we get underneath and start working. So we've got a little grommet here that need to be screwed in, and another connection right here that needed to be screwed into the pump. And then this here is the bracket system for mounting underneath your bed, and that's just loosely put together. This here is your fuel line, and I've got this prepped and ready to go. This end right here is going to connect coming off of your fuel tank, and this little connector right here was just pushed in, and this end over here is going to return off of your fuel pump, the FASS system, and go back to the fuel line, the stock fuel line that's already there. Once we get underneath and start disconnecting and hooking it all up, I will update you with that, so that'll be coming next. Here we are underneath the bed of the truck. As you can see, here's the line we're going to put in. This that you can see right here is my current fuel tank. You got these two lines right up here. This one right here is the larger of the two. This is the one we're going to be disconnecting right here. Pull this off, and we'll connect our new fuel line for our FASS system onto here, and then we're going to put the return line onto this. So we're not getting rid of any of this right now. Alright, I hope you can see this. I wanted to show you what it looked like after I hooked up the fuel lines. So again, one end of the new fuel line onto the old stock fuel line that was separated from this one right here. I'm touching with my thumb. So I pulled this clip out, separated this line from this. New fuel line slid right inside there, clipped in place, and new fuel line on this side as well. And when that slipped on there, that clicked into place. So that's ready to go. Next step. Alright, so what you're looking at there is the overflow into the filler line. So this line comes from your gas cap or your diesel cap down into your tank. And what they have you do is cut a slit in this hose. And this piece is provided, and these tighteners are provided, so you just slide that in on each side. Make sure the rings are on first, slide them back on and tighten them up, and then we'll hook up a hose to this a little bit later. Alright, moving right along here. Next step in the process is we're supposed to put some WD-40 into the fuel separator nipple there, and then we need to bump the starter. And I think all we're doing is we're trying to lubricate the inside there before we start running. So I've got the wire that's coming from that I've hooked up inside the hood. I haven't tied that down yet, so I've just got it running right over here. Make sure we get enough WD-40 in there. It said to liberally spray it. So there's a lot in there. And now we're just going to bump the starter and see what happens. Okay, so that's done. I couldn't really video and have this try this process at the same time. I don't have enough hands to do it, but it was pretty non-dramatic. I turned the starter on, and the pump on the instart there, you could hear it was going extremely quiet. This is a really quiet system. And just sprayed some more WD-40 in there, got it all lubricated, turned the pump off, and at this point now we're going to be mounting it up into the bed. Now FASS recommends that you use the bolt closest to your truck bed, which is the one that you see right here in the video. Problem I had is that is too close to my filler tube. This is part of the FASS system as well for the fuel exchange. So I am moving back one rail, and as you can see here, here's the bracket, and I went ahead and just attached it to the next bolt on the bed rail. So let's get the rest of the pump connected to it. Okay, got it mounted up in there, both brackets. I found easier was to take the first bracket, get that screwed up in there first, because the bed bolts on my truck were a bit short, so it was hard to try and lift this whole system up in there, which is a bit heavy, and get the bed bolt in there with very little threads to grab on. So I just put the first bracket on first, and then took this bracket and mounted it on, tighten up those bolts. There's a final install of what that looks like. Now we'll start working on hooking up the hoses, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. You can see it doesn't hang too much below the bed there. If we go back a little bit, you can kind of get an idea of how far that hangs below. Alright, I want to give you guys one last look after everything was installed. And I got all the fuel lines hooked up, zip tied down. Here's our electrical cable coming in, and this line right here, you can see it. This line right here is going to be supplying fuel to the engine. This line right here, as you can see, is going back into the fuel system, so it goes into your line that you fill up your gas tank with. And then on the other side, you can see that that's our line that's coming out of the fuel tank. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to prime the fuel pump, and the way that you do that is you crack the actual fuel filter, the 3003. You just loosen it just a little bit, and then you turn your engine, not on, but just turn the ignition so you're actually getting power to the pump. And then what we're going to listen for is the tone to change, and that means that the gas is getting in there. So let's give that a shot. All right, so we can hear it. There we go. Lost a little bit of fuel, but it is primed at this point. You could hear the volume change as that filter filled up and it got primed. So I'll have to wash my hands. You might want to wear gloves when you do it. A lot more came out than I thought would. But we should be primed and ready to go. I'll let this run for 10-15 seconds, turn off the key, and we'll try and start it. All right, we've successfully primed it, started the engine, and it works. So just letting the engine run for a minute here. You can see right here where we've got the FASS system installed. There's no extra noise coming from it. It's nice and quiet. And the great thing is everything's running, everything's working. And I had no extra parts, which is nice to see when you come to the end of a project. Usually you've got like extra nuts and bolts laying around, you're wondering where the heck are those supposed to go. Not in this case. So I wanted to wait a few days to do the final segment of this video because I wanted to see how the FASS system would perform and give you guys an update. So the first time I took the truck out, I had the check engine light come on, which kind of worried me. So I plugged in my computer code, or my computer, and reset the code. The code was basically it was a pressure issue with the line. So I figured it was something related to the FASS system. Maybe the line hadn't fully primed yet, so I reset it, hoped that it took care of it. A couple minutes later, check engine light came back on, plugged in the computer, it told me the same thing, fuel pressure issue. So then I was starting to wonder, okay, maybe I installed something wrong. Reset the code, and about 30 seconds later I noticed the engine idle change on my motor. Up until that point, I noticed that the idle was higher than it had before I put the FASS system on. So the idle went back down to the normal range that it is in, and I reset the code, and since then I haven't had any problems with it. The check engine light hasn't come on, the truck runs great, it idles at the low RPM, so I'm guessing it was simply a priming issue. Maybe there was something still in the line, hadn't gotten out. I've also put in the FASS fuel filter delete kit, so that added to it as well. That had to be primed separately. But anyway, in the next couple of days I pulled a 15,000-pound fifth wheel, about 300 miles with no issues. It worked great. In fact, I noticed at the higher RPM, especially when I'd be accelerating from a stop, my truck used to give a knocking noise, and that is no longer there. So I'm wondering if it was just getting starved for fuel when we were getting into those higher RPMs and it was really pulling hard. Now I no longer have that knocking noise. So I'm guessing that the fuel system is working good. It's providing all the fuel that it needs to the engine. It's getting more fuel than before. So the truck is running smoother, it's running better. Good job, FASS. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great day.